Hello, ni hao. Welcome back. 欢迎回来 to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on April 26, 2023. Now, today was another long day. I've been out, up and about, and since 7 o'clock this morning. Uh, Luckily, I did get a chance to get in a little power nap, so I'm feeling pretty good. But it is getting late, and it's going to be another early night and early getting up early tomorrow. So I am going to try to keep this relatively short. Relatively short means shorter than I'm going to try to keep it under 40 minutes. You guys know when it comes to Wisdom Wednesday, it's usually a little bit long-winded. Um, Anyway, today I'm going to talk about a game that is enjoyed by people all over the world, especially rich people. And my parents used to be so into this game that they travel around the world, go to different countries just to play this game. Yes, I'm talking about the game of golf. Personally speaking, I never found the joy in playing golf. I find that, standing there trying to whack a ball with a stick and see how to try to get it into a hole that I can't even see, it's not enjoyable for me. When you're blind, it becomes a little bit like a guessing game. I find that just not enjoyable. But that's just me. I do know there are blind people who enjoy it immensely, and all the more power to them. Of course, we got to do our little bit of a Mandarin lesson. So in Mandarin, golf is called 高尔夫球. 高尔夫球. So it's very simple. 高尔夫, basically just how you pronounce golf in Mandarin. 高尔夫, and then 球 means ball. In Mandarin, any game that have a ball involved in it, like basketball, football, golf, ping pong, they'll add a word 球, CHO, in the at the end of the whatever name it is. Like, uh, for example, basketball is 篮球. 篮 means basket, and the ball means 球 means ball, and the baseball is 棒球. 棒 means club. Uh, Baseball bat, and the 球棒球 is baseball. Uh, Football is 橄榄球. Uh, Soccer is 足球. 足 means feet, and 球 means ball. And then, like I said, golf is 高尔夫球. So this is a kind of a easy way to remember when it comes to ball-related sports in Mandarin. Almost anything that have a ball in it, you would add 球 in the end. To play ball, to go play ball with your friend, you would say 打球. 打球 means play ball, which is interesting because 打 technically means to hit, to attack. So it got nothing to do with play. Uh, so in Mandarin, when you say play ball, you actually say to go hit a ball, or to go attack a ball, to go 打球, it's to go play ball. Now that we're all balled out, let's talk about golf. Um, Now, if I tell you that golf came from China, would you believe me? Some of you would, and some of you might say, "No, you're stretching that. Golf came from England, didn't come from China." Well, don't be too quick to decide on that. Now, I will admit that historically, there's actually no record that golf came from China. Uh, but there again, historically, there's really no record of where golf came from, uh, where it started and all that stuff. It just kind of popped up from nowhere at the end of the 14th century, in the very beginning of the 15th century. However, today I'm going to present you some circumstantial evidence that might prove that golf did indeed come from Chinese people. First, there's this little story that what that happened about uh, year 1000 or 1100 or thereabout during the Song Dynasty in China. Uh, During the Song Dynasty, there was a magistrate who was getting ready to marry his daughter to the son of a magistrate of the neighboring town. So there's two magistrates. One of them has a daughter, one of them has a son, and they decided to do the arranged marriage thing and uh, get connected that way. Back then, most of the marriages were arranged. That like people didn't really have proper relationship back then. Um, so while they were preparing for the wedding, this magistrate whose daughter was going to get married saw his daughter's uh, maid, like personal maid, sweeping the floor and cleaning up in the backyard, and suddenly this maid started weeping, just burst into tears. So the magistrate thought, oh, that's kind of weird. She's like start crying in the middle of house cleaning. So he went to the girl and asked her, what's the matter? Why are you crying? And the girl said, you see that hole over there in the ground by the back fence? And the magistrate said, yeah, and what about it? I guess it's always been there. I noticed that hole there for a long time. I never pay much attention to it. And the girl said, my father dug that hole for me when I was little, um, when he was teaching me how to play ball. And the magistrate was kind of shocked because usually people that were maids and servants that came from peasant family. Peasant family did not play ball. It's not an activity that enjoyed by peasants. So he asked the girl, "Well, that's odd. But where did you live? Who was your father? Which family did you come from?" And the girl said, "I never wanted to let you know this because I'm kind of ashamed. But my father was a magistrate before you. And when my father died, all his assets got auctioned off, including the women folk at home. So I got auctioned off at the auction block, and then you, when you became the new magistrate, you happened to purchase me as your servant. So if my father didn't die, I would still be uh, nobility. I would still be of good standing. But because my father passed away, now I'm just a servant girl. I'm just a maid. Ah, well, that makes a lot more sense why her dad would be teaching her how to play ball because they were of high standing. Um, they had high status. Well, this magistrate was really touched by her story and feeling really sorry for her. So in the end, he actually called off the wedding of his own daughter and instead married the girl off to the groom in question instead of his own daughter, so that the girl would be married into a good family and enjoy high status again. Now, this is a very small, a very little story, and it definitely reflects a lot of problems of the time. I mean, when you think about it, like, what the heck? I'm going to marry your daughter, and then a few days before the wedding, you tell me that you're going to call off the wedding, and then I'm going to marry her maid instead. Like, I mean, things like that were okay back then, but nowadays would never fly, right? But um, the interesting part of the story was when she said, my dad dug the hole for me when he wanted to teach me how to play ball when I was little. Now, if you don't know the sport in question, the activity in question, you would be kind of thinking, what the hell kind of activity was that he need to dig a hole in the yard? Well, the activity in question is an old Chinese sport called cui wan. Cui wan. Cui means hammer, to club, to hammer something. Wan means a tiny ball. When you get meatball, those things are called wanzi in Mandarin. So wan is a ball the size of a meatball. So doesn't that immediately call to mind uh, golf? Like you hit something the size of a meatball into the hole in the ground. That was the objective of Trade One. Now, Trade One was not the first form of this activity. The first form of this activity go back even further into the Tang Dynasty. So about year 600, uh, 600 AD, I guess. Um, During the Tang Dynasty, a lot of men played this form of golf called ma qiu. They play, they hit the ball with stick from the horseback. But because women folks back then mostly didn't ride horses, so when they wanted to enjoy this uh, uh, activity, it's called bu qiu, means uh, ball, game, and foot. So women would form two teams, and they would have a sort of a goal and both for both team. And your objective is to take a stick and then whack that little ball and try to get it into the goal that's defended by the other team. Gradually, they realized that this was actually kind of dangerous because people were trying to stop that ball from going into the goal and people were getting hurt. Women folks were getting hurt. And so they decided, why don't we make this a little bit civilized rather than uh, trying to hit it through the between two goalposts and then people have to get in the way and stop it. Let's dig a hole in the ground and then everybody take their turn and hit the ball and see who can get it into the hole in the ground. And so Buqiu, the ball game on foot from Tang Dynasty, evolved into the game called Cui Wan, the hammer ball, in Song Dynasty, which would sort of lead up to our little story. In the beginning, when this girl's dad was trying to teach her how to play Cui Wan and dug a hole in the yard so he could teach her how to play. Now, all this happened around uh, prior to 14th century. Like I mentioned early on, golf didn't really come into being in Europe till the end of 14th century, the beginning of 15th century. So there is a high probability that the game of Trade One was so enjoyed by the Mongols when the Mongolian people were trying to conquer the world. When they went west to try to conquer Europe, they brought the game with them. And then 200 years later, in 14th century, at the end of 14th century, uh, even though the Mongols were gone, the game remained and took off in Europe. Back in China, the game of Chuan was enjoyed by royalties and nobilities alike all the way through to Ming Dynasty. In fact, you can still find portraits of emperors in the Ming Dynasty playing the Chuan game, and the stick they hold in their hand looked a lot like the golf clubs that people use today. Now, there is even a funny portrait of a particular emperor in the Ming Dynasty. Apparently, he was so into the game that every time he played, he used two clubs and he would hit two balls at the same time rather than just do one at one ball and one club. That's how crazy that emperor was about the Trade One game. Strangely enough, when the Ming Dynasty ended and the Qing Dynasty started, Shui Wan as a game faded out from Chinese people's life, And it wasn't until the end of the Qing Dynasty, in about 1905, that uh, the game got reintroduced to Chinese people. But by then, it's no longer called Trade One. By then, it's called Golf, aka Gao or Fuqiu. So, did golf first start in China and then go to Europe and then come back to China? Or is that all just coincidence? Well, you be the judge of that. I hope that you have enjoyed this relatively shorter episode, and I'll be back again tomorrow for some Toy Thursday. For now, 谢谢 and 再见。